You have been performing your entire life, not on a stage, not in front of cameras, but in every room you've ever walked into, every sentence you've carefully chosen, every opinion you swallowed because you feared what someone else might think. You have been living inside a prison, and the terrifying part, you built it yourself, brick by brick, smile by smile, silence by silence. Most people will never admit this. It's too uncomfortable. It cuts too close. But somewhere inside you, there is a version of yourself that has never seen daylight. A version that stopped speaking the moment it learned that honesty was dangerous and approval was currency. That version of you didn't disappear. It just went underground. Here is what nobody tells you about the need for approval. It doesn't start as weakness. It starts as survival. When you were young, belonging meant safety. Agreement meant love. If the people around you smiled, you were protected. If they frowned, you were in danger. Your entire nervous system was wired to read the room and adjust accordingly. And it worked for a while. But then something shifts. What was once a tool becomes a trap. The habit of performing, of shrinking, of editing yourself in real time. It becomes so automatic that you forget you're doing it. You start to believe that the performance is the person, that the version of you that everyone approves of is the real you. And that is where the rot begins. Friedrich Nietzsche watched this happen to the people around him, and it enraged him. Not with cruelty, but with the particular fury of someone who sees a sleeping person about to walk off a cliff. He called it the herd instinct, the deep, almost religious drive to dissolve yourself into the crowd, to sand down every edge that makes you different, to trade your individual truth for the warm, numbing comfort of collective agreement. And he understood something that most people spend their whole lives refusing to face. The crowd doesn't actually love you. The crowd loves your compliance. The moment you stop performing, you find out very quickly who was ever really there. Think about the people in your life right now. How many of them know what you actually believe? Not what you think they want to hear, not the version you've calibrated for their comfort, but the raw, unfiltered thing you think when you're alone at 2 in the morning. If the answer is almost no one, you are not living. You are auditioning. And the tragedy is not that people will judge you for being real. The tragedy is that most of them are too busy performing their own version of themselves to even notice yours. Here is the brutal hidden truth about approval. It is infinite. There is no amount you can collect that will ever be enough. You get the validation, and for a brief moment, the hunger quiets. But it comes back, louder, hungrier, more desperate, because approval was never meant to fill that emptiness inside you. It can't. It was designed by fear, and fear is never satisfied. Every time you betray yourself for someone else's comfort, you dig the hole a little deeper. Every time you silence your truth to keep the peace, you teach yourself that your truth is not worth speaking. And eventually, you forget what your truth even sounds like. Nietzsche believed that the greatest war a person ever fights is not against enemies, not against failure, not against circumstance, but against the version of themselves that was shaped by other people's expectations. He called this the process of becoming who you are, not who you were told to be, not the identity that was handed to you by your family, your culture, your fear, but the self that exists underneath all of that noise, waiting to be uncovered like something ancient buried beneath soft earth. And here is where it gets uncomfortable, because the people who will resist your becoming the most are not strangers. They are the ones closest to you, the ones who built their understanding of you on the version you performed. When you change, when you start speaking honestly, when you stop apologizing for your nature, when you draw a line where there wasn't one before, they will call it selfishness. They will call it arrogance. They will say you've changed, as if change is an accusation. What they really mean is that your growth is threatening the story they told themselves about who you were. Your freedom makes their cage more visible, and nobody wants to see their own bars. This is why so few people ever actually break free. Not because freedom is impossible, but because the social cost of it is real, and most people are not willing to pay it. It is easier to keep performing. It is easier to nod. It is easier to live inside the comfortable lie that you are loved for who you are, when what you are actually loved for is your willingness to be what others need. But here is what waits on the other side of that cost. Here is what Nietzsche understood that most people miss entirely. The moment you stop needing approval, you become something rare and almost terrifying in this world. You become someone who cannot be controlled, because control requires leverage, and leverage requires need. The moment you genuinely stop needing someone's validation, their power over you evaporates. Not because you've become cold, not because you've stopped caring about others, but because your sense of self is no longer rented from anyone else. It is owned, earned, built with your own hands from your own truth. That is not arrogance. That is sovereignty. Most people will spend their entire lives in quiet negotiation with the world, trading pieces of themselves for safety, for belonging, for the relief of being accepted. They will reach the end of their years with a full social calendar and an empty inner life. They will have been liked by many and known by no one, not even themselves. You were not built to be liked by everyone. That was never the point. You were built to become something, to carve through the noise and the performance and the endless adjustments until what's left is something real, something that can look itself in the eye, something that doesn't flinch when it's alone. Stop performing, stop calibrating, stop shrinking to fit inside the shape of someone else's comfort. The day you stop chasing approval is not the day you become selfish. It is the day you become honest. It is the day you become present. It is the day you finally, for the first time, become free. And freedom, real freedom, is not given to you by anyone. It is taken, quietly, deliberately, one act of truth at a time.